Strap on your tool belts and grab a cup of coffee. It's time for My Fix It Up Life with Mark and Teresa.
Two of my favorite tools on the job site or in the workshop, a healthy blend of caution and confidence. It's tough to match, but sometimes you can get there yourself. We're talking about how to do that today, and I hope you'll join us. Thanks for hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate it. Work safe. Sanding walls before you paint? Do it the Hyde way, not the hard way, with Hyde's dust-free sander. Attach to your wet dry vac and go. No drywall dust on your furniture, no tough cleanup when you're done. Buy online at Amazon.com. Hey, My Fix It Up Lifers, thanks for hanging out with us on another My Fix It Up Life radio show, podcast, Google Hangout, YouTube video. We love that you guys spend time with us, that you share with us on Facebook and Twitter what you're doing, what your questions are when you do your projects, your DIY, your woodworking. We love the posts that you put up there, and we are psyched you could buckle your tool pouches and hang out with us today because we have a cool guest, Mike Holmes Jr. You may have seen him on Home Free on Fox or HGTV Canada or any number of different places. Mike, it's awesome for you to be here. Thanks for taking time. We are talking about all kinds of different things today, but the meat on the bone, as it were, is DIY getting started, what I'm calling skill builders and things that you do and have seen, like on the Drill Down Challenge on Home Free from Fox. People who don't know what tools are, different things like that. But before we get into any of that, can you please just explain to me how Home Free works? Because I don't get how you can keep that giant secret that whole time.
I mean, it was hard to keep the secret. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they were about 12-hour days, so we'd spend that with all these couples, and they'd be prying. They'd kind of try and get stuff out of you, but I mean, the main thing we did was that the couple that gets voted out at the end of the week, they go home. And we made sure we stressed that to everyone that, do you want to make it to the end? Do you want to win this dream home? Like, what are you here for? And it kind of just reminded people that, oh, that's right. Like, I don't have a house to call my own, or for Kate and Andy, they want to win it for their parents. So we really just tried to keep it as vague as possible without letting, the cat out of the bag. We tried to just not really talk about it and just keep everyone at the task at hand.
Wow. Did you... Feel free to not answer this. Did you almost slip at any time? Because it's a long day, you got a lot on your mind, and whatever, and you're like, nothing. I wasn't going to say anything.
I mean, I can honestly say I never slipped. I don't think I came close. But there was one time I can actually think of on site. I swear I overheard one of them saying, like, I wonder if so and so got this house, and it almost like, I just kept working and pretended to play it cool, but it kind of hit me, and I'm like, I went to my dad, I'm like, I think they might be onto us. I mean, luckily they had no idea. It was just coincidental.
Yeah.
But, if anything, that kind of scared me, because I'm like, the last thing we want is for them to spoil that surprise.
Right. Did you have, and when I was reading about the show, and I don't want to equate the two things, but there are some Extreme Makeover Home Edition people involved behind the scenes, and we got to be part of that show, Teresa and I, a couple of times, and it was really, really cool. We enjoyed it, and the behind the scenes for us was just awesome.
Yeah.
And when they set up, it was like a movie set. Like, there were trucks everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And was this like that?
Oh, it was. I remember. When we do our productions here in Canada, I thought it was big, but then once we got down into the States, we got to Georgia. The first week I got there, and it was literally, we drive in, there's security, there's truck after truck after truck. They've rented out houses. There was probably 200 people minimum on site. It was massive. Yeah, I say that. That's an understatement. It was huge.
Yeah. And you walk in, you're kind of like, gulp.
Yeah. Oh,
How are we going to pull this off?
yeah. That I honestly, I said that. I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna pull it off. And we kind of, as the first week, we all said to each other, this is going to be an interesting week because we're going to get to know each other. We're also going to figure out how this works, and hopefully we can make it all work. And we did.
Was there a moment, and I'm not trying to like punch holes in the whole thing because it worked, and a lot of the guys there are pros, and I know that. But was there a time when you were kind of like, oh crap, like how are we going to dig ourselves out of this one?
I mean, there was definitely times. I even said, I had talks with people. I said, there's no way, because we had 8 weeks to do 8 houses, and I said, I'm like, there's no way we're gonna be here longer than 8 weeks. And I remember specifically one night with one of the contestants, Brian. I had to help him build his cupola. Well, he built it, but I helped him install it because we didn't want to send him up on the roof by himself. Even though the guy was, he was pretty handy. He knew what he was doing, and we ended up sometimes having to push those limits of, they were supposed to work till 2 a.m. and we were up there until I think 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning trying to install this thing. So it was really all built around trying to help the contestants.
Yeah. Now, when you went up there, and I don't remember the detail of this episode, was it a steep pitch? Were there roof jacks? How did you have to get up to there?
I think it was a 10-12. Luckily, we had a boom truck that we just kind of escalated up there. And I mean, me and him, we harnessed ourselves off, and then I made sure that if anything dangerous has to get done, and I mean, I'm a qualified person. I've got my fall arrest. I've got everything I need. So I would make sure to tackle that stuff. But it was really, like, he did the bulk. He did 99% of the work. I just helped him install it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so Mike Holmes Jr., for people who might not know your background, other than you're part of your family and everything that goes with that, that you're actually a real person that's separate.
I am
your own self.
I'm Mike Holmes Jr. I am Mike Holmes, but I am a little different than him.
Do you have approval to say that?
Yeah. I cleared it by him before we did this.
You have a checklist? Okay. Yeah. Today I'm going to be me. Is that okay? Yeah.
I tell myself that every day.
Yeah. Did you go to trade school? What's your history living a life with tools and home improvement and making things?
Yeah. I went to school for carpentry. I've finished all my schooling. But before that, I mean, I never actually planned on going into the trades. It just kind of happened one summer. I wanted to get into firefighting, and my dad said to me, "How'd you like to make some money?" And of course, I mean, who doesn't like making money? And that's where it all started. I mean, the money wasn't great, but as a 14-year-old kid, I thought this is a great opportunity to make some money, maybe learn a few things. And then that summer, I mean, just building with my hands, building with some of the best people in the trades, I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with the idea that I can build something, and at the end of the day, I can look at it and I can take something that's in my head and I can apply it with my hands. And that was huge to me. So I've been doing it now like 10, 11 years, full time. And I've done my schooling for carpentry, and I've learned a lot over the years. That we'll say that.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I totally get what you're saying. And it's great that, to me anyway, because I've been doing it longer than 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
And that there's that openness to be, I don't know everything, and that there's more to learn, and there always is. I think I saw something like a Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones thing. He says, what did he say? He said, you keep growing until they start shoveling the dirt in, in your grave. And
it's true.
I thought,
it's, I mean, the second you think you know it all is when you stop learning. I mean, you always have to keep an open mind, and you always have to think there's better out there, there's better built, there's better ways. And as long as we keep an open mind and always try and improve ourselves, I think we'll never stop learning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
if you had to choose, if you had to pick one thing about home improvement, would you rather do more of the rough carpentry like framing and decks, or
Mhm.
more of the interior stuff like crown molding or trim, or the casework like kitchens and
Yeah.
cabinets and bathrooms?
You know what? I love framing. There's nothing more. I mean, don't. It's kind of a two-parter. I love going into an empty room and just being able to just kind of snap some lines, square it off, and then start framing. It's so much fun to me because it's one of those things. You'll walk in a room at the beginning of the day and it's empty, and then by the end of it, all of a sudden there's all these studs. There's walls. There's bulkheads. Um, but that being said, I've done a lot more framing than I have finished carpentry. I've done a lot of trim work, a lot of baseboard crown molding, don't get me wrong, but I want to build more cabinets. I actually just started prepping to build my own furniture at home. It's something for me I want to do as a hobby, but and kind of carry into my career as well.
Oh, so you're talking about the real, like what I would call actual woodworking.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, people throw that around, and like I made something recently, and we're going to do a blog about it on my Fix It Up Life, and you'll see it. But I made this bench, and it's simple. It's 1x10s, 1x12s, little hinged lid. Like
Mhm.
there's no dovetail, there's no, not, very not zero tolerance for,
Yeah,
no inlay. You know what I mean? And but that's kind of what you're talking about when you say furniture to me.
yeah. I want to build my own kitchen table. I want to build my end tables. And also I do at home. I've done I built my closet. I did all the shelving and cabinetry for my closet. It's something like I just love being able to create. I love being able to take a bunch of pieces of wood and then all of a sudden build something. And what I like about the finishing is that there's so much thought that goes into it, and you have to be so precise. Otherwise, you're going to see that in the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's kind of what we started talking about at the beginning for people who might be watching you on Home Free or an HGTV Canada, or watching you sweat bullets building the man cave garage,
Yep. Yeah,
you know.
definitely quite a few there.
Yeah, yeah. You got put through the ringer on that one pretty good, didn't you?
My God, I mean, I'll never forget the day he was like, "Mike, I want you to build my ultimate garage." And I was like, "I've worked on a ton of garages. This is gonna be a walk in the park." And then I finished my beginning schooling for carpentry and pretty much rolled right into it. And I looked at the plans and I thought, "What is this? Like, it's got a green roof. It's got 40 solar panels." Like, I was just taken back. And I mean, throughout the duration of this project, I really felt like I was over my head, and I
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
But for me, this was such a good learning tool. It was like either you sink or swim, either do it or don't. And it was like I put everything I had into it. And I'm so happy with the way it turned out. I mean, there was some hiccups. I'd be a liar if I said I didn't make mistakes. But I mean, I think it's how you improve on those mistakes and how you handle it at the time what makes you better.
I agree with that. I agree with that by trial by fire kind of thing. And I think that everybody has their own, where they enter that crucible. Like
Yeah.
if you're just getting started in DIY, for example, and I'm not making fun of anybody, my fix it up lifers out there,
Yeah.
3,500 RPMs on a table saw, if you're not scared of that, or at least cautious, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a healthy fear, it's a good thing. I mean, you have to, without fear, I mean, I don't think, at least with tools, you need a certain respect because you need to know what it's going to do to you, what a table saw can do to your hand, or what a chop saw. Every tool that we use, I mean, they're potentially dangerous and life threatening, but that's why you have to take your time and learn it and do it properly because, and like you said, you have to have that fear, otherwise it could go pretty badly.
Sure, sure. Well, here's a question for you, because down here in the States, the training we have is go cut that.
Yeah.
Just go rip that one by and come
Yeah.
back and make sure it's straight, and that's kind of
Yeah,
it.
I hear you.
But you were lucky enough, and Canada, as a country, has
Yeah.
schooling,
Mhm.
and when you were rolling up to a table saw in school for the first time, if you can remember, like, what did the person say to you? Was there I'm sure they had a whole thing that they said and
Yeah, I
about
mean,
being respectful of the tool and all the things that you just mentioned.
yeah, one of the things with the table size, of course, you have to know where the blade is, but you also, what you're watching when you're ripping any materials, you're watching that guide, and you want to make sure your material's riding that guide properly. Another thing you have to be careful of is one of the time I was using the table saw for the first time, I hit a knot, and because I remember my teacher telling me, try not to stand directly behind the blade, like the path of fire, essentially, because that what it did was it took that material and it fired back and it hit me in the elbow, and it hurt quite a bit. I mean, it could have been worse,
Sure.
but I mean, it really just, if I could give anyone advice, it's wear your safety glasses, hearing protection, because you only got two ears and two eyes. I mean, there is something that once you lose it, you can't replace it. And just go slow. Don't force the material through, and just kind of be careful.
Sure, sure. But also be confident enough to push
Yeah.
it through. Don't be so careful
Yes.
that you're so tentative you can't.
Yeah, there is a fine line. You're absolutely right. You have to have confidence in there. And like you said, it's a respect thing. You have to have enough confidence, but you also have to know that there could be consequences or things that you have to be aware. I mean, you could do something a million times, and all it takes is one time that you're maybe a little tired or not so aware that a mistake could happen.
Sure, sure. Well, on home free, and let me just be honest, my goal here is to make fun of someone and make them feel bad. I'm kidding about themselves. But you're there in your role hosting the show with Mike, your dad,
Yep.
and you've got the drill down challenge, for example. You've got these people working late at night, maybe in things that they haven't done before. Like,
Big time.
I recall one episode where they were digging a trench, I think, for an underground power line.
Yeah, we were running power from the street to connect into the house, and yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, they were suffering because I think one of the guys was a landscaper and he kind of had it, but the other people really, there's an art to digging a hole.
Yep.
You got to know how to use a shovel.
Yeah.
And I've totally lost my train of thought. Question for you. And, oh, the people, so your role there, hosting with your dad, doing the drill down challenges, quizzing everybody.
Yeah.
When did you want to step in, and when did you have to step in and say, you know what, I gotta nudge you down the road a little bit this way, or how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we had to do, and I had to keep in mind, is I can't do their projects for them. I can't, I have to let them make a mistake. But the one thing I could not do is, if this is something that's going to be hazardous to their health, then I would always stop them. I mean, there were times I always wanted to step in. By nature, it's like I want to help people, I want to teach people. But I think, I mean, for one of the things for me is I wanted to compete with the drill down challenge. They were all so much fun, and just watching these contestants go through them, I was like, if only I could be running these with you.
I saw one that was a tool. What is it? And there were the
right.
wall of tools. Some of them were obvious, but some weren't.
Yeah.
And they had to take, and I'm sorry I don't remember it exactly, but they had to take some off the wall, put some back, get the whole thing right, and they raced off and they got something if they won that.
Yeah, no, that was, so for the drill down challenges, sorry, I apologize. For the drill down challenges, once they win them, they have, they have the option of choosing who's on their team for that weekend, choosing their project list. Now, this week, they had to take 10 tools and put them in the proper areas. Now, most of these people had no idea what they were, and there was a few on there that, if I didn't go to school and if I wasn't working in the trades, I would have had no idea. And I kid you not, I was in the house shouting off this list for 45 minutes to an hour while people were running in and out and in, and there's construction working on the inside. The whole thing to that one was that you have to be, you have to know your surroundings, and you have to try and listen while you work, and just making it harder on them, really.
Yeah. That was chaos because I remember you in there and I'm watching it on TV and I couldn't even hear you.
I couldn't hear myself either.
Yeah, because it was a madhouse in there.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
So what was probably the most challenging drill down challenge on Home Free?
That's a tough one. I'd say the most challenging one I saw, probably also the funniest one, was when they were blindfolded. Like, to have to go through that course, I don't know how I would do it. If someone put a blindfold on me and had my girlfriend telling me where to go and what to do, I'd have a really hard time with that. So I think that was probably one of the most challenging ones. And there were some of them that excelled and some of them that did terribly on that.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And you must have been like, whatever, kind of like, geez, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen?
Oh yeah, yeah, big
That's
time.
hilarious.
On the edge of your seat the whole time, like, oh, and you want to tell them, you want to be like, no, go here, do this, but you got to just kind of bite your tongue.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that I can sort of deliver on the promise of DIY, getting started, and skill builders. One of the projects that I see people getting started with is, and maybe getting started with, I think a little too ambitiously, is crown molding.
Yeah.
I can see you. You know what? You don't even have to answer any more questions because you know what's going. So is it when you see people getting started on it, and even when I do it, I have to think about it. It's crowns like third dimension in space.
Yeah.
That throws you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, if you do baseboard, you do casing. I mean, you can do that for years, and then once you do crown, it's a completely different beast. I mean, you get to learn the angles, yes, but it's backwards. Like it's tough, and you have to kind of. One thing I've learned from my dad is to make templates. Make templates for inside corners, outside corners, and then sometimes you look back once you're doing it, and you're like, okay, which one's the inside corner, which one's the outside corner? Even for someone who does it, I mean, once you do it enough and get to know it, you don't need it, but it's a handy thing to have.
Oh, so a template, like just a little short piece that's an outside right or an outside left.
45 on the outside, 45 on the inside, just so, because I mean, usually people are working within a budget and they don't have just unlimited amounts of crowns. So I know that mistakes I've messed up crowns so many times. Yeah. I had to go back to the store and buy more crown. It is an easy thing to mess up on. So it's just the more you prepare, I think the better off you are.
Are you the way I do it is I like to dead end the left side and cope the right side, and sort of wrap my way around the room. And it's hard to explain coping. So since I can't do it, you do it.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm going to go sit down.
Yeah. That is actually the way I do it as well. However, the contestants on Home Free, I wasn't about to try and explain with them how to cope. I mean, it is, I think, coping baseboard is one thing, but coping crown molding, you have to go on such an intense angle just to have it tie in so nicely, especially with a detailed crown. But it is, I think, there's no better feel and look than a coped trim, really. It fits in so well.
Yeah, and this maybe is another one we can agree on. I've heard people say, it's an old house. Or it's a new house, whatever their complaint is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy's built it. The corners are out of square.
Yeah.
And I've been around long enough to say there are no square corners.
Yeah.
It's anywhere.
Yeah.
You got the joint compound, you got life, whatever. There's nothing square.
Yep.
So, so when you're doing crown, you set up, and I'm going to quiz you a little bit on maybe a thing you would do for a DIYer. What would you suggest to someone who wants to take that on, and they're watching videos, and they've gone to your guys' site, makeitright.ca, and they come to our site at myfixituplife.com, and they look for all the crown and the coping, and they watch Tom Silva and all the guys do it, but they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So what would you do? How would you guide somebody who's like, all right, I got a box, my dining room, and I want to put some crown in it. Nothing crazy, but what would you say to them to get them started, hobefully off on the right foot?
Well, I mean, much like what we did for home free on one of the challenges, like I said before, you get an inside miter, an outside miter, and you show them how those corners join up. So you kind of create that fake corner, not on the ceiling, but like just with the two pieces, with the templates is what I call them.
Sure.
And it's to kind of paint a picture in their head. And same with like if you have a bay window, just knowing those angles that they're 45 or 22.5, trying to get people to understand that is a big thing. But I think having a template piece to kind of slow down, and before they cut the piece, they can look and they can say, okay, well, I need 2 of these. I'm going to have to do it this way. I think that helps.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I actually do those too, to see where the miter, like on an outside corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're facing it like this, I'll take 2, I'm not sure what I call them, two dummy pieces.
Lingo in the construction world.
Yeah. And I'll go and see where that lines up, because it might not line up right where the corner bead of the drywall is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, as square as we can frame it, and as much like once we board and then we do some taping, like nothing really is perfectly square. I mean, there's obviously a difference between, close and not even close. I mean, usually a lot of the old homes we go into, it's a nightmare, but it's a lot of the time it's not just a perfect 45 degree, especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, in the minute and a half left for DIYers getting started, would you and doing all kinds of, so home improvement, so it could be anything.
Yep.
Just in power tools, what would you suggest that they go to the store to be, and it doesn't have to be brand names or sizes or anything, but miter saw, table saw, nailers. What do you think that they should start out with?
I mean, definitely a drill. I always suggest a drill. I mean, we don't do everything with a screwdriver anymore. Those times are kind of done. You need a screwdriver, but not for everything. I like an impact drill, but also you want a chuck drill that you can adjust, an adjustable chuck, so that you can use for different drill bits. And then I would probably say, a small compound miter saw. You don't need a big 12-inch beast. But then again, I personally like to go big. And then maybe just a skill saw, something like that. I mean, kind of just the essentials, the basics. It's important, drill bits and drills. And you can now actually, I own a couple of these, I don't know about you, is the cordless brad nailers and even framing nailers. For me, those are key. I don't have to bust out my heavy-duty compressor now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, battery operated, and it'll shoot the brads, it'll shoot finish nails, and you don't need. You know what? I haven't used one in a while. I'm gonna have to go back, because you're right.
A couple.
Yeah, you're right. The other ones were like, well, let's see. Right after I can't lift this off the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike Holmes Jr. Give me your Twitter and your Facebook, so if people listening to this show or watching us can go check you out on social media.
Sure. My Facebook, you can find me at Mike Holmes Jr. Twitter is Mike_Holmes Jr. And Instagram is Mike MH89.
Awesome. Mike Holmes Jr., thank you. And my Fix It Up lifers, thank you so much. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here. Check us out on Facebook too. We'll be talking back and forth with Mike and other people and getting some DIY done. So ask Teresa your design questions, watch our videos on YouTube, listen to our podcast, and all that stuff. As always, every time we're here and you spend time with us, we say thank you. We say thank you for letting us be part of your life and your DIY. Mike Holmes Jr., you rock. We're out.
Take your inspiration into real life with Sherline paint products. From easy pour and store paint can lids to tools that help give you a perfect line. For more information, check out Sherline.com.
I'm
excellent buddy in our working job.